Everyone, it's Miss Kirkbride. As we move forward into the next couple of weeks of kindergarten, we're going to start doing some assessments. And when we're doing assessments, it is so important that you as parents are helping your children just with the technical aspect. We as kindergartners want to get the most accurate data possible. So today I thought that I would record a little video kind of explaining and giving you some examples of what that's going to look like. So I've recruited some help from our speech therapist, Mrs. Kirkbride, who's also my mom.
Hello.
So we're going to be doing two different activities. One of them is a math activity where I will be playing the part of the student and Mrs. Kirkbride will be playing the part of the parent. And you'll get to see me make quite a few errors. And then Mrs. Kirkbride is going to show you what some good, helpful, supportive prompting looks like, and also just a good boundary of how much to help and how much not to. So some things that you'll see her doing is she's going to ask me to go back and check my work a lot. She won't point out the errors that I made. She'll ask me to do that myself. So when your kindergartner makes an error and you notice that, you can say, oh, please go back and check your work. But if your student doesn't catch the error, we're just going to let it be. If you are noticing consistent errors, that's okay. That's something that kindergarten really wants to see as a team. And when your student is finished with their activity, you can ask them, okay, is there anything else that you want to do? And your kindergartner, if they say no, we're just going to leave it. Even if they haven't done every aspect of the activity, if they forgot some of it, or if part of it's not right, please do not edit your student's work at all. We want the most accurate work possible. So I'm going to switch to sharing my screen and we're going to walk through that first math activity, which looks like this. So this will be a lot like what you and your student are going to see when you're working through an assessment. Okay. So just like always, your first step is always going to be to view the instructions. And you'll notice that when we're doing assessments, it'll say assessment at the top, and then there will also be a note at the bottom reminding you that it's an assessment. So I'm going to listen to myself read the problem. So I know my first step is to underline the important numbers and words. Okay. And then I'm going to draw my picture.
Did you underline all the important things?
Oh. I also want to underline 3. And I know it's subtraction because it has the word left. Thanks, Mom. Then I'm going to draw my picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to write my number sentence.
Okay, go back and check your work. Look at your picture. Did you do all the things that you needed to do?
Nope. I forgot to cross off my dots.
Okay.
So I had 7, and then I took away 3. 2, 3. And then I had 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 4 left. Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay, is that all you want to do?
Yes.
Okay, let's submit it.
And I'll stop sharing my screen. So Mrs. Kirkbride did an awesome job of not giving me the answers, and you'll notice that at a couple points I wanted to stop and I wasn't sure what to do next. And instead of telling me to go back, or instead of telling me that I needed to cross off the dots, or instead of telling me the answer, Mrs. Kirkbride was really good about going back and reminding me to check my work and to make sure that I'd done all the steps. That's a really good example of what helping your student would look like. So now we're going to switch to the reading assessment. And this one's going to take a little bit longer. You're going to watch me read a passage. I'm going to struggle with some words, both high frequency words and CVC words. And Mrs. Kirkbride is going to prompt me to remember my high frequency words. Remember, those are words that can't be sounded out or stretched out. And when there's a word that can be tapped out, she's going to prompt me to do that. And you'll notice that she's going to ask me to always go back and look at the first letter and make the first sound. She's not going to give me any sounds. If I don't know the sound that the letter makes, we're just going to skip it. And then we're going to do some writing afterwards. She's going to ask me to say the sentence. I'll tap the number of words, and then you'll watch me stretch through writing a whole sentence. And once again, she's never going to give me the answer. She's never going to give me the sound or tell me how to spell a word. All of my spelling is also going to be phonetic. So you might notice that some of the words are not spelled the same way that you would see them in a book, and that's okay. That's totally kindergarten appropriate. So we'll switch. And this should look pretty familiar. This is an activity that your kindergartners have done before. But I wanted to show you a really good example of how to prompt your students through this. So once again, we're going to view the instructions first. And as always, there's this little box here that will repeat the instructions for you as the parent to help prompt your student. So this is a two-part assessment. The first part, I'm going to read a passage. The second part, I'm going to do some writing. So first, we're going to start by watching me sound out or stretch through all of these words. And one thing that I would encourage you as parents to do is to let your students struggle, and definitely to have patience. When we're learning to read, it's a really, really long, slow process, but that's okay. Just encouraging your student and continuing to prompt them will be the most helpful. So I'm going to start reading the passage. I, hop, my, cot. I hop off my cot. Mom. I don't know that word.
What's the first letter and what sound does it make?
G says G. A, T. Got. Me. A. B. Ox. Ox. Mom got me a box. At. Flat. I don't know that word.
That one's a high frequency word. Think through your high frequency words.
What is in the box? What is in the box? I pop the top. I pop the top. It is a doll. I don't know that word.
Start with the first letter. What letter is it? What sound does it make?
N, nut, X. Next, I see a top in it. Next, I see a top in it. My mom ox rocks. Okay, so during the reading, Mrs. Kirkbride did a really nice job of reminding me to always go back and look at the first letter of the word in order to sound it out. If your child is unsure of what that first sound is, you can use your chant chart to help prompt them. They can look and match the letter to the chant chart. Please don't tell them what the letter is. Just like Mrs. Kirkbride did, she said, look at the first letter, see what sound it makes. And that was perfect. The other thing that she did a really nice job of is she prompted with this high frequency word. And you'll notice that I didn't say it the right way a couple of times, and that's okay. If your child doesn't know, it's totally fine. Some of us have more exposure to high frequency words than others, and that's absolutely okay. And you'll notice that she also didn't give me the word. So when I wasn't sure or when I said it incorrectly, she just let that go, which was perfect. So now we're going to move to the writing part. So I'm looking at this question and I'm going to write a sentence that answers the question, what was in the box? If your student is not able to answer the question, that's okay too. Just make sure that you note that somehow. You can type a message that says was not able to answer the question or something similar to that. But if you would like to encourage your child, you can always have them go back and reread the passage. Again, please don't read the passage for them. Students should be able to read all of this independently. Okay, you're gonna watch me write a sentence independently. So Mrs. Kirkbride is just gonna provide some support. She's not going to tell me how to spell words, and she's also not going to correct any of my spelling. So I'll model spelling phonetically, and Mrs. Kirkbride will model how to prompt your student to spell phonetically. And she also won't go back and correct any of my sentence structure or my grammar. So you might notice that I won't start with a capital letter, or I might forget punctuation, and we're just gonna let that be. Whatever your student writes is awesome. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna answer the question, what was in the box? So to think through my answer, first I'm gonna count the number of words in the sentence I want to write. So I want to say, it was a pretty doll. It was a pretty doll. So that's gonna be 5 words. So it was I don't know how to spell pretty.
What do you hear? Write the sounds that you hear.
Pretty.
P.
Pretty. E.
Write what you hear.
It was a pretty D. All. Doll. It was a pretty doll.
Okay, let's submit it.
Thanks. I forgot to do a lot of things in this sentence. I didn't capitalize the beginning. I didn't include punctuation, and 3 of these words are spelled incorrectly. So that's a really good example of what typical kindergarten work would look like. So you notice that Mrs. Kirkbride just encouraged me, and when I said I was done, she said, awesome, let's submit it, and that was perfect. She also used this great phrase, like, just write the sounds that you hear. And that's perfect. Once again, we're only spelling phonetically, so kindergartners should only be writing the sounds that they hear. So that's our great examples of a math assessment and a reading and writing assessment. On the Seesaw assignment for parents, you'll notice that there's a box that says, or that the assignment part will ask you to either circle, no, I do not have any questions, or you're always welcome to type, what questions you have about assessments, or feel free to email or send a remind message. Kindergarten is more than happy to answer your questions about assessments. Thank you again for all of your support, and we're excited to see the great work from your students. Thanks, Mrs. Kirkbride.